There are Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon. It was exciting watching that, and yet, today, 6% of Americans think it was all done in a Hollywood studio, faked by our government in order to avoid the humiliation of losing to the Soviet Union in the space race. Now, this doesn't surprise me. People come up to me at airports and say, how come you don't report on how the government created crack to kill black people, or AIDS to kill gays, or how there's a UN plot to create a new world order, a totalitarian world government? I say to them, why are you so convinced? If a new world order were really happening, it would be a conspiracy of thousands of people all over the world. Wouldn't it leak? Wouldn't some of those people be eager to talk about it? Wouldn't we in the media love to put it on the front page? Wouldn't it be a big headline? Don't you think that the fact that it's not on the front page means it's probably not true? And they look at me and they just don't believe. I don't convince them. Why are some people so eager to believe in conspiracies? Michael Shermer studies that. He's the author of the book, The Believing Brain, From Ghosts and Gods to Politics and Conspiracies. So, Michael, there's a plot for one world government, and people believe that. Lots of people.
Well, those are the... Yeah, they do. They actually think that there's an attempt at world domination. There's 12 people living in London, the Illuminati or the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or more recently the Bushes and so on, that somehow they are all orchestrating this. And basically with conspiracies, unlike a lot of the other claims we check at Skeptic, that some of them are true. I mean, Watergate was a conspiracy. The attempted assassination and then successful assassination of Lincoln was a conspiracy. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand that triggered World War I was a conspiracy. So
there
we
are
can't
some
just
real
blanketly
ones.
say
Very
that's
few,
right.
though.
So what criteria do we have? Basically, the more people that have to be involved, the less likely it is to be true. The more components that have to come together, the more elements that all have to be coordinated just perfectly, the less likely it is to be true. People can't keep their mouth shut. As you know, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. Franklin said that centuries ago. It's still true today. I mean, if you just think about Watergate, I mean, here you have the most powerful administration in the world, and they couldn't even break into a hotel successfully. And in any case, people blabbed about it afterwards.
Today, many Americans believe that September 11th was orchestrated by President Bush as an excuse to wage war in Iraq.
But think about what would have to come together for this. We already know that the planes hit the buildings. We all seen the videos of it. So not only did that happen, but they also believe that explosive devices were intentionally planted inside both World Trade Center buildings. These 2 of the most secure buildings in the world. Somehow conspirators got in there and for months ahead of time planted these bombs inside. In other words, once you start spinning it, you have hundreds and hundreds of elements that would have to come together and thousands of people that would have to coordinate this. Not one of them wants to go on your show to tell what they really saw. Not one told their spouse or their girlfriend at Pillow Talk, look what I did, or you know what I saw. Not one. Because this is what happens. We find out about conspiracies because people can't keep their mouth shut. And yet nothing like that has happened with 9/11. 9/11 was done exactly how we think it was done, by Al-Qaeda, not by the Bush administration.
And yet 16% of Americans say it's very likely that federal officials had a role in this. More say somewhat likely. Only slightly more than half say not likely. Some believe it because they think the corporate media, I've been called that, the corporate media were complicit in cover-ups.
Right, even if that were true, that somehow, let's say, Rupert Murdoch ran all the news, and we already know that there's, hundreds of different media sources, that somebody like a Drudge, I mean, think of how Drudge got his name, by being an alternative media, that somebody would be the next Drudge by blowing open the biggest story of the century, that 9/11 was orchestrated by the Bush administration. We have the proof. Here it is. Surely somebody would do that.
And I should also say, as someone who's worked in the corporate media for ABC and now for Rupert, that the corporate media may have one wish, but they can't control us. I mean, the people at ABC, most of them hated business and just wouldn't do what the businessman in charge might have told them to do. And rarely does anyone tell us to do anything. We really do have a free press in America. What about the moon landing?
That's right, we do.
How can so many people think that was faked in a studio?
Well, in part because it is such a fantastic, amazing feat that it seems like, well, gosh, could they really have done that? But if you think about it, in terms of the technology at the time, it would have been an even better feat to be able to film something like that and pull it off without all those engineers working at NASA who were keeping track of the telemetry coming back from the spacecraft as it was heading for the moon. That would have had to have been coordinated by some sort of fantastic satellite telemetry, and that just wasn't even possible at the time. And so the question is why? Why do people believe these things? In part, it's because of something called cognitive dissonance. We want to balance our view of the world with the way things should be. So the assassination of JFK. There has to be something big comparable to killing a president. Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone, a lone nut, a nobody, that doesn't jive. It doesn't feel consonant. It feels dissonant. Or Princess Di. She's a princess. What did she die of? Speeding, drunk driving, no seatbelt. It doesn't get more mundane than that. That's what lots of people die from. But she's a princess, so it had to be some sort of cabal, a conspiracy, a plot against her, a murder, an assassination that feels better to most people.
Thank you, Michael Shermer. It may feel better, but it's not true. And coming up...
Not true.